even just a few days ago, I was, me and my girlfriend were taking a road trip, and she is not a huge hip hop head, but she's kind of getting more into some kind of rap artists, especially Kendrick Lamar, who's been on this really kind of generational run in the last year, just won a ton of Grammys, just performed Super Bowl, crazy stuff he's doing. And she really, really digs his most recent album. And it's a great record. I've been listening to it more and more. It's fantastic. And so we were considering seeing him live, and so we were kind of on that road trip. We had a couple hours, so we were listening to some of his older work, some of my personal favorite albums. One of my favorite ones being an album called To Pimp a Butterfly, which if you have not listened to, give that it's it's amazing. It's got Thundercats on there, George Carlin's on, crazy, like real musicians involved in this hip hop project that was executive produced by Dre. It's really, really good stuff. It's pretty much just a jazz rap album, which is two of my favorite things kind of fused into one, but we were listening through it. It's a compelling project. It's got these really, really nuanced themes. It has actually literally a poem that's threaded all through. But regardless, it's super dense, it's super good, and it's a great album. But I realized as we were listening to it, it's like, this isn't really road trip music. It's good stuff, but it's so dense, and it's something that you really want to kind of sit down either with really good studio monitors, maybe even with the lyrics in front of you so you can kind of read along as it's going, because it's so much being thrown at you, as opposed to his more recent project, which is just hit record, hit record, hit record, hit record, right? It's just how many awesome, accessible, catchy, super listenable songs can we put here? And then it begs the question, well, what's the better album, right? You could make the argument, the one that has this, interview with Tupac Shakur and all of these different threads being woven throughout, this really intense story of a homeless person begging him for money that turned out to be the second coming of Jesus. It has all these crazy metaphor, allegorical stuff. And then the other one is just an amazing collection of really, really, really tightly produced, well thought out songs. There's not a deeper meaning or a crazy thread through it. It's not a concept album, but it doesn't need to be, right? And so I think something that we do a lot as artists is we try to make everything be as grandiose or as like, not even cinematic, but just you want things to feel larger than life, right? And I think especially with the way music has kind of gone in, especially kind of the last few decades, as the loudness wars and all that stuff, everything's trying to sound so big and so full. And so it's not just sonically, but I feel like it's also conceptually. I feel like a lot of, at least people that I know who write music, are really trying to make sure that their songs are doing something different and are kind of big picture ideas, right? Which is cool. And I never want to discourage that way of thinking. Lord, like I've done plenty of songs and plenty of, even my album I would classify as a somewhat of a concept album, and it has these threads and these themes weaved throughout, and that's something that I'm really proud of. But I think sometimes you can also just turn your brain off and make fun music, right? So I think it's a balance. It's a balancing act between, and neither one inherently has more quality to it, right? I think that's the other thing. Like you could, obviously if you're saying, you're comparing some cheesy romantic comedy to a Scorsese movie, right? Sure, one may be, more brilliant and a masterpiece and all that stuff, but they're not trying to do the same thing. They're not going for the same effect, right? A feel-good movie isn't trying to make you, doesn't want you to think about it and dissect it for weeks after. It just wants you to have a bowl of popcorn and have a good time. So albums and songs and records can be that too. I think it's just, I guess what I'm getting at is just, it's really good to keep an open mind, both as a listener, as a consumer of art, but also as a creator of one. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I think it's okay to just have fun. I think I recently, me and my friends, we put together one of the Tiny Desk concert sort of submissions, and I was debating which one of my songs that we should arrange and put together for it. And one of mine that we were debating between two. One of them is really, really kind of heavy and has a lot of kind of, it's a bit sad and melodramatic, and it's got all these themes and it's very tense, but it's not fun, you know what I mean? It's just kind of, like, ooh, very, dramatic. And then the one we ended up doing was one where it's really simple, it's really catchy, it's really poppy, and at the end we had enough time to just like kind of toss solos back and forth between it, because we had Berkeley musicians, right? We had a flautist, we had a trumpet player, we had a pianist. Like, it's like, hey, why don't we just trade solos, just kind of play hot potato, toss it around, and that ended up, for the purposes of what we were going for, keeping it light, keeping it fun. If I was to rate my own songs in terms of quality, I'd probably say that the one we didn't do, the more dramatic one, is more significant to me. I think I'm more proud of that as a piece of writing and as a composition. But the one we did was really fun, and people were super receptive to it, right? People like to have fun. Not everything needs to be the most conceptual, brilliant magnum opus, right? You just make a fun song sometimes. So.